elementary school teachers. He served in numerous ministries within his church. He is president of the James B. Knighton chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated, and is a proud life member and kindred member of Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated. Dr. Adams is also a life member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. And a life member of the NACCP. My tongue got tied in. He and his lovely wife, Regina Jones Adams, will celebrate 44 years of marriage in August. They have 4 sons and reside in the Las Vegas, Nevada area. At this time, we're going to have our speaker come up and give us a word.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mike has a mind of its own.
All right.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening to our honored guest. I'm Dr. Leary Adams, a kindred member of the Tuskegee Airmen, president of the local James B. Knighton chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen, and a graduate of Grambling College.
All right.
HBCU. Today, I am honored to speak to this distinguished group about the Tuskegee Airmen and to thank you for keeping the legacy alive. I suspect you already know a great deal about these brave war veterans, but I hope you take away something from my presentation. Because their story is not just about flying. It's about the mechanics, doctors, nurses, cooks, photographers, and all the African Americans who showed courage and resilience in pursuit of equality, and how each of us, in our own way, can be a crusader for justice. I'll start by discussing the origins of the Tuskegee Airmen. A significant member by the name of Charles Anderson, the superior training the airmen received, and the favorite tactics used by the group in combat that contributed to their success. I'll speak about one particular incident of discrimination faced at Freedman Field, and how their fight for equality led to permanent changes in our military. The origins of the Tuskegee Airmen can be traced back to the early 1940s, when the United States was drawn into World War II. At that time, the military was racially segregated, and African Americans were largely excluded from combat roles. However, in response to pressure from civil rights organizations and the need for more pilots, the U.S. Army Corps established the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama as a training ground for African American aviators. In 1941, the first class of aviators began training at Tuskegee. The program was led by Charles A. Anderson, who was the first African American to earn a commercial pilot's license. The rigorous training included both ground and school and flight training, and by 1943, the first group of Tuskegee Airmen was ready for deployment. This initial group, known as the 332nd Fighter Group, was later joined by the 99th Fighter Squadron, which became the first African-American fighter squadron in the United States Armed Services. Not much has been said about Charles Anderson, and not enough has been said about Charles Anderson. But he was a notable figure among the Tuskegee Airmen. Born on December 9, 1919, in a small town of Tuskegee, Alabama, Anderson developed a passion for aviation at an early age. He attended the Tuskegee Institute, where he pursued a degree in aviation in 1941, and he became one of the first African Americans to earn a pilot's license. His training took place at the Tuskegee Army Airfield, where he was part of the pioneering group of black pilots trained under the Army Air Corps. Anderson served as a pilot with the 99th Fighter Squadron, which later became part of the 332nd Fighter Group. He flew numerous combat missions during World War II. The Tuskegee Airmen earned a distinguished reputation for their exceptional skill and bravery, making significant contributions to the war effort and challenging racial stereotypes due to the many talents of Charles Anderson. Charles Anderson's effectiveness and significance to the success of the Tuskegee Airmen can be attributed to several key factors. As one of the first African Americans to earn a pilot's license, Anderson served as a role model and inspiration for many aspiring aviators. His early achievements demonstrated that African Americans could excel in aviation, paving the way for others. Anderson was not only a skilled pilot, but also a dedicated instructor. He played a crucial role in training new pilots at the Tuskegee Army Airfield. His expertise and commitment to excellence contributed to the high standards of training that the Tuskegee Airmen were known for. Anderson was an advocate of civil rights within the military and the aviation community, fighting against racial discrimination and working to ensure that African Americans had equal opportunities in aviation. This changed perceptions about black pilots. The Tuskegee Airmen, under the leadership of pilots like Anderson, known as Chief Anderson, built a reputation of professionalism, discipline, and skill in the air. Their success in combat missions challenged prevailing stereotypes and demonstrated their capabilities, leading to greater acceptance of African Americans in the military and beyond. Their success was also due to exceptional training. The Tuskegee Institute offered a rigorous training curriculum that included both theoretical and practical components. The program covered essential subjects such as aerodynamics, navigation, meteorology, and aircraft systems. Ground school included hands-on flight training, ensured that the airmen were well-versed in both the academic and practical aspects of aviation. The airmen learned to fly various aircraft. This hands-on experience allowed them to develop essential piloting skills. But the training program was not just about flying. It also emphasized discipline and leadership. The airmen were taught the importance of teamwork, responsibility, and adherence to military protocols. This focus on discipline helped cultivate strong leaders who could perform effectively in high-pressure situations during combat. To prepare for combat, the Tuskegee Airmen participated in simulation exercises and tactical training. One of the most effective tactics used by the Tuskegee Airmen in combat was the combat box formation, a tactical arrangement used particularly when escorting bombers on missions during World War II. The box formation tactic used by the Tuskegee Airmen was a flying maneuver designed to protect bomber aircraft during missions. This formation involved arranging fighter planes in a rectangular shape around the bombers, with one group of fighters positioned above, one below, and others on both sides. The primary purpose of the box formation was to provide a 360-degree field of fire against enemy aircraft, maximizing defensive coverages and minimizing the vulnerability of the bombers. By flying in this formation, the Tuskegee Airmen could effectively coordinate their attacks against enemy fighters while ensuring that each bomber was shielded from multiple angles. They also required their pilots to remain close to the bombers and not chase enemy aircraft, which would leave the bombers vulnerable to the enemy fighters. These tactics showcased the skill and discipline of the Tuskegee Airmen, as they required precise flying and teamwork. The box formation not only increased the survivability of the bombers, but also contributed to the success of many bombing missions during World War II, highlighting the effectiveness and bravery of the Tuskegee Airmen in their role as escorts. They had one of the best success rates at protecting bombers from enemy attacks. Their training was enhanced when they received the most effective fighter aircraft during World War II, the P-51 Mustang. The P-51 was renowned for its impressive speed, capable at the time of reaching 400 miles per hour. Its design allowed for excellent maneuverability, enabling the pilots to engage effectively in dogfights and invade enemy fire. Equipped with drop tanks, which were additional fuel tanks that could be dropped when empty, allowed the aircraft to escort bombers deep into enemy territory. The Packard V1650 engine, a variant of the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, powered the P-51, and 6 50 caliber M2 Boeing machine guns, a substantial firepower advantage. It was also a versatile aircraft that could be used for various roles, including fighter escort, ground attack, and reconnaissance. Overall, the combination of speed, range, firepower, and versatility made the P-51 Mustang a dominant force in the skies. One of the most significant air operations of World War II involving the Tuskegee Airmen was the Battle of Anzio. The Battle of Anzio, fought from January 22nd to June 5th, 1944, was a critical military engagement, marking a crucial phase in the Italian campaign. The operation was characterized by strategic importance. Intense combat unfolded as Allied forces sought to establish a beachhead in Italy. The goal was to outflank German defenses, facilitating a more direct advance into the heart of Europe. The battle began with amphibious landing of Allied troops on the coast of Anzio. The Allied High Command aimed to create a diversion that would alleviate pressure on the forces fighting in other ports of Italy and Europe. As the battle progressed, the situation at Anzio became tougher. The German command recognized the threat posed by the beachhead landing and launched a series of counterattacks aimed at encircling the Allies and cutting off their supply lines. The fighting grew fierce, and both sides suffering heavy casualties. The Allies faced difficulties in coordinating their forces and securing vital supply routes, leading to a stalemate that lasted for several months. One of the critical aspects of the Battle of Anzio was the role played by air support during the stalemate. The distinguished Tuskegee Airmen provided essential aerial support, protecting ground troops and engaging enemy aircraft. The airmen's effectiveness in combat contributed significantly to the overall success of the operation, showcasing their skill and bravery. The eventual breakthrough came in late May 1944, when Allied forces launched an offensive, leading to the capture of Rome. The victory not only marked a significant milestone in the Italian campaign, but also boosted Allied morale and showcased the Tuskegee Airmen's ability in battle. It was underscored the challenges of modern warfare and the importance of air power. Approximately 1,000 pilots graduated from the Tuskegee program. They flew over 15,000 missions in Europe and North Africa, escorting approximately 1,500 bombers carrying about 10 men each. You do the math. That's about 15,000 lives, not counting the successful aerial combat operations. They achieved an impressive record with the 332nd Fighter Group, known as the Red Tails, due to the distinct red markings on the tail of their aircraft. They earned prestigious accolades, including the Distinguished Flying Cross. Their performance disproved the negative prevailing myths about African Americans' abilities as aviators. However, please realize how significant their accomplishments were, that the Tuskegee Airmen operated in a context defined by Jim Crow laws, which enforced racial discrimination and segregation. Despite their great service, they faced racism both in the military and in society. They were often denied the same opportunities and respect as were given their white counterparts. A good example of this was the 1945 Freeman Field incident. This occurred when a group of Tuskegee Airmen attempted to integrate a segregated officers club at Freeman Field, Indiana. They met with resistance from military authorities, leading to arrests and court-martials. It was mentioned earlier that I was a kindred member of the Tuskegee Airmen. My Tuskegee Airman kindred was a cousin named Harold Blue. Harold was born 1913 in New Orleans, Louisiana. In 1942, he earned his wings and became a Tuskegee Airman. Prior to his becoming a Tuskegee Airman, he spent his first years of service in the U.S. Army and in all-black infantry at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, in a group known as the Buffalo Soldiers. That was where Harold learned the art of photography. When the black officers at Freeman Field refused to sign the order not to enter the White Officers Club, they were arrested. Harold was concerned that the Army did not want pictures of the arrest made public. Those taking photos had their cameras confiscated and photos destroyed. So Harold put the skills he previously learned in photography to work. In secret, Harold rigged a shoebox to hide his camera with a drawstring attached. As the men were being arrested, he snapped pictures covertly. He succeeded and mailed the photos to the Pittsburgh Courier, a highly read African-American newspaper. When the pictures of the arrest started to appear across the nation's newspaper, it became impossible for the Army to deny what had happened. Citizens and other organized groups sent more than 50,000 telegrams and letters protesting the arrest of the black officers, which were sent to the War Department, Congress, and President Roosevelt. Although President Roosevelt died shortly after, Vice President Harry Truman took notice of the Tuskegee Airmen's arrest. And his Chief of Staff, General George Marshall at the time, ordered the 101 black airmen be released. War historians acknowledge that the Freedman Field Mutiny, as it was called at the time, and Harold's photograph was an inspiration for the eventual desegregation of the U.S. Army in 1948. President Harry S. Truman's executive order integrating the military after World War II was Executive Order 9981, signed on July 26, 1948. This landmark order aimed to end racial discrimination in the United States Armed Forces and establish equality of treatment and opportunity for all service members, regardless of their race, color, religion, or national origin. And in 2 days, we will celebrate the 77th anniversary of that order. The Tuskegee Airmen pilots, support personnel, and women of the 666, 888, and all African Americans who served during World War II played a crucial role in demonstrating the capabilities of African Americans in combat. The order aimed to ensure that all individuals serving in the armed forces would be treated equally, regardless of race. The legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen and men like Charles Anderson and Harold Blue helped to highlight the need for change in military policies. Their actions challenged prevailing prejudices and contributed to the argument in favor of integration. As a result, Executive Order 9981 can be seen as a direct acknowledgement of the efforts and sacrifices made by the Tuskegee Airmen and the other African Americans in the military, paving the way for a more equitable armed force. It would be 50 years before the military records of the Freedman Field Airmen would be expunged of any wrongdoing. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen and Harold Blue's photograph serves as a reminder that individual actions can lead to monumental changes. Each of us has the power to positively impact our communities, whether by raising awareness of social injustices, advocating for equality, or simply lending support to those in need. History, our real history, has shown that small acts of courage, like speaking out against injustice or standing in solidarity with marginalized groups, can inspire others to act, creating a domino effect that fosters a more just and equitable society. If you stand for nothing, you will fall for anything.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ask yourself, what do I stand for?
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, God bless each of you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
We're gonna call up past Grand Exalted Ruler Tony Davis and past Grand Daughter Ruler Shay Williams with a presentation from the department.